This is the Simpit video blog. Today's story comes to us from Jalopnik, where just this weekend they had their annual film festival here in Los Angeles, and John Hill and I were able to go down there and check out their special screening of Winning, the Racing Life of Paul Newman. And this really kicked off their entire film festival. This went on at a separate location the night before. It actually went on at Santa Monica Airport in the Barker Hangar, which is an incredible venue to do something like this. They had a giant screen set up in there. They had seating for hundreds and hundreds of people, and they had a big party going on just to show the special screening of this documentary by Adam Carolla. So when we first got there, they had some things. The whole thing was sponsored by Mazda. So first of all, let's thank Mazda for helping out something like this. I mean, when I think about it, the fact that just for a simple RSVP, we're there watching this movie, pretty cool thing. And you got to thank Mazda, you got to thank Jalopnik, and you got to thank Matt Hardigree for putting this all on. So a little bit about the movie. I mean, I've known Paul Newman as a great actor for a long time, and that's the first thing that I think of when somebody mentions Paul Newman. But as much as I was a fan of him as an actor, I was a fan of him as a race car driver as well. And I knew for a long time that he had done a lot of racing. Knew he was a big fan of Datsuns. I have a Datsun 240Z. That made me an immediate fan of him as well. But I really didn't know the whole story behind him becoming a racer and how dedicated to the motorsport he was. And that's what this documentary was all about. So before I go full circle and bring this back to sim racing, let's talk about the movie a little bit and a little bit of things that I didn't know about Paul Newman, which is really cool. I mean, Paul Newman, when he started out, Bob Sharp actually pulled him aside and said, look, if you're going to get into racing, you need to start in the lower ranks. You need to learn the skills, the craft of racing. You need to work with cars that aren't going to hide your mistakes so that you can become truly good. And if you look at old-time pictures of the story of Paul Newman, he was running in things like a Triumph or in a Datsun 510, some very slow cars back in the day in SCCA. And he sure did learn that craft, and with that, he moved up the ladder to faster and faster cars, got into the Zs. By the end, and this is something I didn't know, and it just blew me away when I learned it, he ended up winning 4 national SCCA championships. And that's not chump change. That's not just doing it because you have a budget. These guys take it seriously, and winning a national championship is no joke. So that right there is something that is so impressive to me. The other thing that was really impressive about this movie and learning about it is how much he really was respected by the other drivers and how much of a role he played in some other drivers' careers, like Lynn St. James, Willie T. Ribbs, or the whole story behind him and the Andretti's, which is very cool, or how he got involved with Carl Haas and became Newman Haas Racing. So all of this was covered in the movie, and it was really cool to see, and it's amazing because he was so private a person that this is something that most people didn't know about him. This was a separate life from his acting and his public career. This was something that was very private to him, and it wasn't about making you or me a bigger fan. It was about his love for racing. Other things I didn't know. I didn't know that he raced at Le Mans. He actually finished second in class at Le Mans, and that's quite an amazing thing as well. And then the last thing, and a few things that I'm going to take away from this movie, and I'm going to talk about that, but his last few years, if you follow him, he was running a Corvette, and each year the number on the car got larger, 81, 82, 83, and that's because Paul Newman actually raced until he was 83 years old, and he was winning races until he was 82. Very, very impressive facts about Paul Newman. So the reason I talk about this is, of course, this was a great event by Jalopnik, and that was very cool. The other reason I bring this up is most of you out there like me. If you sim race, there's a chance that you sim race because you're a huge fan of racing, and that's what got you into sim racing. And basically, your sim racing may be to channel that energy that you would put on a real track. And if you think about it, Paul Newman didn't even begin his racing career until his 40s, late into his 40s. So really, if you're out there, there's nothing stopping you from being a race car driver. I mean, granted, Paul Newman had a lot of money and a lot of resources, but if you look at the level he went and the way he pursued it and the way his career went, it wasn't that affected by the money and by the fame. It was really a path that anybody with the skills and that was going to put in the time and energy that he did could have done the exact same thing. So that was something that was very cool about this story, and it's something that I want you to think about. It's never too late, and if you have that burning desire to race, it's never going to go out. They talked about this in the movie as well. It's never going to go away. You're going to have to one day take that dollar and get out on the track somehow, some way, regardless of your age, just like Paul Newman. So other things I want to talk about. Again, this was a film festival. We saw Winning. And that was a great movie, but again, that was done at a separate location. Well, the real film festival was the following day, and it went on at the Ace Hotel, and they were playing, I think, 21 different car guy movies. I mean, just to name a few: Mad Max, All Cars Go to Heaven, Being Evil, Ronin, which shows you it wasn't just about cars that involved racing, but maybe just great chase scenes or great cars in them. Havana Motor Club, The Man in Le Mans, Steve McQueen. I mean, these are some great films. And the reason I'm talking about the film festival, once again, I don't come from a racing family. And when I think of these iconic car guy movies and car culture have always overlapped. This goes back all the way throughout history. And I think when I was a child, what were the movies that might have sparked my interest in racing? I mean, again, my family wasn't racing fans. We didn't wake up on Sunday and watch racing. So what made Shaun Cole want to be a racer? What made automotive motorsports such a big part of my life without any influences? And to me, I think it was probably movies, film. And I think back, what was it when I was a kid? Herbie the Love Bug. Believe it or not, Herbie the Love Bug might have been my first exposure to racing that might have sparked that thing. Seeing this little 53 VW Bug race at Monaco was not only funny and hit home with the children because of that, but it, again, showed racing in a really fun way. And it might have been one of those first catalysts. And I think about this generation we're in, movies like Cars, and these are the movies that are making the racers of tomorrow, the motorsport fans of tomorrow. Other movies, growing up into my mid-teens, it was Cannonball Run, Race Across America with, again, an all-star comedy cast. And this is the kind of movie that, again, might have been people's first look at racing or thinking that cars were cool or something that they wanted to be a bigger part of. So my question to you out there is, what were your influences? What were the things that got you into sim racing or into motorsports, being a fan of motorsports? What sparked or was the catalyst of your interest in it? So I'd be great to hear your thoughts. Go ahead and share them in the comments here. Even better, go to the Simpit, share your comments there, and it would be great to hear what you think made you into a racer. Was it your family or was it film? Anyway, I want to thank Matt Hardigree. I want to thank Jalopnik. I want to thank Mazda. It was a really cool opportunity. I had a great time, and I hope I will get to do next year's if they do it in Los Angeles once again. This is the Simpit video blog, and I'll see you on the track.